Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School of Struggles 7th podcast on self-education versus formal education. I'm super excited for this one. There is a lot to open up on, and this is probably where we can provide a lot of value because, you know, we've touched on it a little bit in the past. One of the biggest things that we put up to our successes is the fact that we are extremely self-educated, and that's why we got us 10 times further, 10 times quicker than any other form of education that we've actually embarked in. Together, I'm here with myself, obviously, Chris, Mark, and Zah. How you going, guys?
Good evening, how are you?
Hello. Boys, last week was amazing. That was probably our best podcast. I was super happy with that.
I loved it.
Loved it. And listening to it, I'll probably listen to it 3 times now. And the feedback I'm getting, I've actually had a few people message me personally on Facebook and to the School of Struggle, Instagram and stuff as well, just surrounding saying thank you. You know what I mean? Like we've been waiting for someone in Australia to do a podcast like this, and I think it's great. So I want to thank you to everyone out there who's actually gone and taken the time to say something to myself or the School of Struggle page. Hearing the stories as to how this helps other people is the reason we do it. It's touching, and one thing we can ask, if you can do us a huge favour, is just subscribe and leave a review. And if you go and tell one friend about it, just one, to go listen to it, that'd be amazing. We don't ask for huge promotion. Just tell one friend, because, you know, if that can come along, that until one person tells everyone, that it's a lot, you know what I mean? So thank you so much for that. If you leave a review and subscribe, it's the only way we can go up the ranks in iTunes and have an opportunity to provide more value to more people much quicker. So if we could do this, that would genuinely be amazing. Now, this podcast was initially born off the basis that we wanted to help more people at a quicker rate and teach them more skills on how to grow their personal lives, business relationships, and personal relationships as well. It was initially spawned off wanting to teach people everything they never learnt in school about how to be successful. And I think this is the podcast on how we can do that in the quickest way possible too. Purely based on the fact that it's exactly that. It's self-education versus formal education. And it will tell you exactly how to do it at the quickest rate possible through self-education as well. Now, boys, one of my biggest things about here is self-education means something different to each different person as well. It's to me, it's one of the best ways to help increase your earning capabilities. The more skills you have, or the better educated you are in a certain area, the higher your value to a client, your current employer, or anything, or any other person in your world, because you actually have so much more to give them at the same time too. And in turn for this, you actually are capable of being able to charge higher rates with your clients, provide more value to your family. If you're in an organization that you are a worker right now, gives you more leverage to actually ask for a pay rise or to actually get up in the ranks quicker within that job as well. And you can quantify that knowledge with everything else too. So it's really good for, especially if you're in a job, asking for a pay rise or looking to actually go and start something of your own as well. But one thing I'll ask, because everyone does have their own sort of explanation of what self-education is. Zah, what is self-education to you?
So I'm going to start off with a quote from the famous Jim Rohn. So he was a mentor of Tony Robbins, and it's formal education will make you a living, and self-education will make you a fortune. I can see, Chris, that you've got it written down in your notes as well. Very famous quote.
Amazing.
You know, like we all think education means, you know, going to school, you know, reading textbooks, getting degrees, diplomas, and I've been there and I've done that, right? I've done all of that stuff. But, you know, where I really, really excelled and, you know, where I got the majority of my experience from was actually from my experience in work and in my businesses and through the execution of just doing shit, right? Now, too many people, you know, they look at education as, you know, purely just reading books, which is not the case. You know, it's everything. It's more so, I like to call it self-improvement rather than self-education, because people think of education as something boring and which they don't want to do, right? And that can be anything from, you know, watching a YouTube video to reading an article, or, you know, going out and actually experiencing things in your job or within your business. And it also means failing and making mistakes, and then making those mistakes and then learning how to come back from those mistakes. So you know, education is just all about constantly learning, and you know, it's paramount in business, and if you're an employee as well, if you want to keep improving and, you know, like Chris said, raising your rates, charging clients more, creating more value, you have to keep learning, and too many people don't do it. You know, I find that, you know, personal development, for example, it gets laughed at a lot by society because
it almost gets frowned upon because you think people say personal development is there's something wrong with you. Some people see that as
like it's as though
bad perception of it.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a lot of haters out there. People are always going to criticize you. If you're having a crack at trying to better yourself, you're always going to get someone trying to tear you down.
And more power to you, firstly.
That's right. And my message for you guys out there is, you know, don't give a fuck about what everyone else thinks and what they say about you. Just keep pushing forward and keep learning new things. And because that's what I've done. Yeah. And I don't care about what people say anymore.
Good. That's amazing. What about you, Mark? Obviously, you're going to have a different explanation for it too.
I do. It's almost like the medium between the listener and you guys, because sometimes it can sound like when I'm listening that we can sometimes get too far ahead, not ahead of ourselves, sorry, but like to the listener it might be like too far out of reach. So we're talking about self-educating and then being able to charge towards people, but even just the simple things, people need to realise that you're self-educating yourself every single day. Even if it's in the office, if it's at home, you know, you're working on a bicycle or something, you know, and
whatever it might be.
Yeah, you jump on YouTube and you go, how to do this or how to do that, and the fulfilment you get, I feel, after essentially self-educating yourself it's a very powerful feeling. I've loved doing it from a young age, because something I mentioned in an article I wrote today was that I wasn't the smartest, you know, at school and stuff like that. Wasn't really good at studying and all that type of stuff. Again, I wasn't the dumbest, but I wasn't the smartest. But I got fulfillment when I could complete something, because I felt like I never could complete things at school. But then when I left school, I always made a point about it. I don't want to get halfway, because I've always had a thing about being. Even my HSC results, no one really knows about them, but I'll bring them up tonight. It was 48%. That's what I got in my HSC. So I was always like, I'm at halfway. I'm just almost at that.
It's okay, Mark. I got kicked out of too many schools to be able to do
it.
So.
You know, like it's the how do you explain it? It's like I always used to just refer to it as the 48%. I don't want to be the 48% where it's only half-assed. It's only half done. I wanted to educate myself to fully, even just get over that line and just go. It's complete. It's done. It's not done the best in the world, but whatever I have done here, I have done it, and I've taught myself. So I go, okay, I know what I need to do next time to be better. So that's that's how I guess it rolls out in my world.
I love it, and I actually love Zara's explanation of it in the different wording, self-improvement, because you're always trying to improve. Education's a pretty blanket word, but if you just look at it as improving yourself, it's a little bit more powerful too, you know what I mean? Because you constantly, especially anyone in the entrepreneur space, they're always constantly looking to improve daily, day in and day out too. So it's very interesting in that respect, and it's good.
But too many people don't look at it as improvement.
You know
what I mean? They look at it as, you know, education's just boring, and you know, you've got to go back to uni and all of that sort of stuff. And you know, what people have got to understand is that, you know, you need to be improving in anything that you're doing every single day. And even if it's got nothing to do with money, you know, if it's got to do with your relationship, improve on being a better father, improve on being a better husband or better boyfriend, you know, improve on just being a better person. So continue to expand as a person and find out ways how you can do that. So that might be reaching out to, you know, different people who are experts in that area. We covered it last week in mentorship, you know, and, you know, constantly improving and being obsessed with it is key if you want to be successful.
I couldn't agree more. I actually couldn't agree more. Now, I want to take a little bit of a step back here, because obviously we're talking about self-education versus formal education, because that's two completely different things. I'm majority self-educated. I don't think anything formal came out of my schooling by any means, other than the fact that I know how to get out of shit with teachers pretty quickly, more than anything else. But I guess that's more self-taught than formal education too.
That's experience.
Yeah, it's experience. Yeah. That's experience. One thing that I did find out, there's an actual word for a self-taught person. It's autodidact. I did a bit of research into it, and this word kept popping up. So an autodidact is a self-taught person. Sorry, and I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, I've got a question from the beginning almost. What is it that you guys actually studied in school, and how much of that are you actually utilizing today?
So this is interesting for me because I've done it all. Right? I've got a diploma and I've got a degree in business, and I have to be honest with you, I've never used it. To get that degree, I basically cheated anyway. So I didn't really learn anything.
That's
you know
right
what I mean? Yeah. So I think the most I learned in uni was when we were at the parties. You know what I mean? Picking up chicks. But
that's where you can use the selling skills.
Well, that's where I learned my networking skills. You know, so. But when it came to the actual education, I don't think I really took a lot away from it. I'd like to say that I took a lot of discipline away from it, but I cheated. So it doesn't really work, you know what I mean? But in saying that, if you did it properly, then you do take the discipline away from it. You've got to meet deadlines and all of that sort of stuff, and that's probably some of the positives that you take away from it. I think there are benefits for me having those certificates in today's sort of marketplace where I sit, more. You know what I mean? So I have a bit more credibility behind what I do, I've got my real estate license and, all of that sort of formal education. And I'm still doing it now, I still do courses now that issue certificates that are verified by certain organisations and all of that sort of stuff. I think it's important. I'm not dissing it. I don't think it's, something that, if school kids are listening to this now, don't go home and tell your mum that, school's not important, you don't have to go to university, because I think it did help me. However, what really helped me was my experience and execution in the business world. So my failures, my mistakes, falling down, learning to get back up again, and being forced in a position where I had to learn new things to get out of different situations. So, a problem would arise. Anyone that knows business or who has been in business will know that when problems arise, it's like a house is on fire, right? And you need to figure out how you're going to put that fire out with no water, right?
The quickest way and the most efficient way too.
That's right. Yeah. So you are forced to learn different methods of putting out fires, and that's basically the story of my life, and that's my education, right? But apart from all of that stuff, I do, the YouTube videos, the podcasts, like this. I read articles. I even write articles. But one of the big things that I do, which is what we touched on last week, is teach others. Because when I teach others, it forces me to learn more, so I can keep on teaching. And that's the main difference, where I think I've gotten so much more out of self-education, and with self-education it never stops.
Constantly doing it, constantly. And I think one thing I want to add on to that is great that you said it too. You were almost cheating in school, right? But cheating's not a bad thing by any means necessary. Obviously, in that sort of stance, it is.
I like to call it leverage.
Leverage. I couldn't agree more. But on quote unquote cheating, right? It's almost like finding that shortcut that you said, the quickest way to get the fire in the house put out, so you can actually get the result you want. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that can be used in a different space. 20 years later in the business world, when you go, fuck, all right, now how do I put that fire out and make sure that everything's okay? Because you worked out that quicker formula last time, you work out the quicker way to do it this time too, you know what I mean? So,
it's about creating a solution the fastest way possible.
Correct, exactly right.
Because you need to keep moving on.
Of course.
Whereas we talk about...
And what did you do? You hired someone.
That's right. Get someone else to do the work, right? Get Mark to do it. But where people go wrong is that we talk about the employee mindset, and then we also talk about the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
What I find about the employee mindset, and for a disclaimer out there, if you guys are employees, it's fine. It's just more so a general sort of mindset I'm talking about in the corporate world. But what they do is a problem arises, and they will just point the finger at the nearest person that they can blame, right? And they don't actually solve the problem, because they don't mind dragging it out, because it's not their money, right?
And they're not taking responsibility because they don't have to.
That's right. But when you're an entrepreneur, your ass is on the line, right? You can't afford to point the finger at anyone, right? You've got to learn how